Yeah.
I think
All
it
that
was
defines
about bringing the human dimension in every conversation and
people.
in every circumstance, and it's something that I've had in me. I would say even as a young child, because I was raised this way. I was raised with the uh, the principle that indifference could never be an option.
Mm-mm.
Responsibility to act and to care and to do the best that you could uh, was always at the forefront. I don't remember myself as a child being in a bubble of innocence. Never. I could see other children around me being in that bubble of innocence, but I could never be in that, I would say, relation to life, because my parents would say to me, even if it's difficult, even if it hurts, even if it's unbearable, you have to understand what is happening around you. You have to care. You have also
Mm.
to have an ideas about what's happening, because you can make a difference. You cannot be indifferent. You have to understand. So you, I don't know. Even the in my memories, even as when I was maybe 3 or 4 years old,
Yeah.
I don't remember myself being in a bubble of innocence, you know, ignoring everything around me. I always had to think, to understand, to take a stand. it's it's very heavy on a child's shoulder, but that's how I was raised, and it made me the person I
And
am, actually.
what kind of a journalist were you?
I think I was a journalist and a citizen, because I never dreamt of becoming a journalist. I actually I started with the National Film Board of Canada uh, on a documentary film, and we actually had to go to Haiti on the first free election, democratic election, after 30 years of dictatorship. And
Wow.
I was asked for the director, Tahani Rached, who is a Canadian of Egyptian origin, to accompany her on that, for the on that production, because
And for
I
your
could speak.
perspective. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and from my perspective, exactly. And I connected to the joy of the people feeling free. No more censorship. There was this desire for something different, for and for a new way of defining society and more justice. And and then I saw it collapse, because again the militaries blocked it. They didn't want this to happen, and the violence happened and occurred, and it was like a massacre. But I saw the courage, and that's how CBC came to me, Radio Canada, the French network, when I
Hmm.
returned to Canada after that experience. And actually, our team was attacked. Uh,
Mm.
they tried, to kill us. Actually, we were attacked by, a group of militaries shooting at us, rockets, and it was. I don't know how I can be alive today, but it was
Right.
really thanks to the population, the people who really freed us, that we made it, because people would come out and in the village where we were and throw stones at them, until they they left us. And
Really?
yes, yes. And it was an incredible, night of so much horror, but at the same time courage from that population helping us. And
Yes.
So when I returned to Canada and we had to edit, the film, and on that press conference that we
Can I
gave,
ask just
uh,
quickly? Can I ask just
yes,
quickly? Est-ce que tu as fait le reportage tout le temps que tu étais là?
oui,
Alors,
yes, I did.
bonjour, nous sommes ici. Et c'est comme, ah là là
No,
là,
no,
comme,
no. It was a film. It's a documentary film, so it's very different from television. But that's how actually CBC Radio Canada came to me, because they noticed by just the way I reported on the experience, during the press conference. They came to me and they asked me, days later, they said, we would be interested, if you accepted to come and work with us. And you know what crossed my mind? Why should I do that? Okay,
because,
the answer was, again, I knew that I was going to be the first Black journalist in the newsroom, and I knew that there was something that from my presence, my mere presence, that could happen, opening the door for others. Because at that time, there were no person of African descent, no Black person in that newsroom.
can we
So
just take a
again, I
minute?
responded
No,
as an
wait.
activist.
We have to take a minute because people are going to want to applaud that. That is just an incredible thing. And not even the first time, because then you would go on to become the first Black female governor general. Like, first, again.
Well, actually, not female governor general, because there was Jeanne Sauvé before me and Adrienne Clarkson, but the first Black woman,
Yeah, that's what I
coming
mean. Not,
to
yeah,
that
that's
position. And
well, first Black
and there again, when I was approached for that, and I took 4 weeks before giving my answer, because I had to know exactly, again, as an activist, what I could do from that space. What would it mean? How could I make a difference? And I knew that it would hit minds and hearts. I knew that it would mean something to so many people, not just Black people, but people who actually would see that, oh, so this is possible. And not just in Canada, but around the world. And it happened. And I remember saying that to Prime Minister Paul Martin. I said, Prime Minister, I'm going to say yes. But do you know what it will mean? How the world will react to this appointment? And he said, you think so? I said, wait and see. And it really happened.
You wait and see.
This is what, activism means for me. It's like opening doors for others, not doing something just for yourself, but something greater that is greater than yourself. Yeah.
I agree. Because, even doing these talks, it's not really my lane. But I decided to do it because I have a mouth and like this super awesome like Rolodex. Does anybody say Rolodex anymore? I know you know what I mean. And I'm like, I think people just want to be talking. And of course, we're talking about race. But when you talk about issues of peace and justice and loyalty and truth, and these transcend, we have to think above the fray. We have to start from a deeper place. When you started the Michaelle Jean Foundation, born out of your time as Governor General, and I long may you reign, and Adrienne Clarkson, and now like with Judy Payette. I'm loving all of this Governor General wonderfulness. I think I love that whole trajectory because it's like apolitical, but it's very Canadian. And, for me, I see what you mean about being in a position where you can affect change from an elevated place.
Yes. Because you can bring people together, because you go where politicians don't go, You don't go there asking for votes. You go there
Mm-mm.
really to create synergies and make people come together on certain, issues and actions that they can carry out together. And you have
Mm-hmm.
this possibility of bringing people from all sectors, all walks of life, and you
Yeah.
can shed light on their realities. You can shed light on what they are living through. So I find that it's a moral authority that is worth taking, seriously, and there's so much you can do from there. And that's what I
Yeah.
tried to do. And you know what? At one point I realized that you do nothing or you do a lot, people don't really care. But I could not be there and not, do give,
A lot.
20, 200% of myself, and making sure that during these 5 years, I would give a voice or make as many voices that I could heard. And I actually had made, one of my priorities the youth. And the idea wasn't to bring the youth to me. The idea was to go where they are. And I met so many young people experiencing, a lot of challenges, confronted to situations of exclusion, disenfranchised youth, and indigenous, black, you know, in urban, our cities, and everywhere. And they wanted really to take their place, and to find their space in society. And they were not in apathy, actually. They were, I mean, thinking of solutions. They had ideas. They were really trying to find a way of coming out of that exclusion and to actually give, to their community, try to revitalize their community. And a lot of them would do that through the arts because they saw in the arts a fantastic tool, to ignite change, to get together, to share their stories, to address issues, to have, uncomfortable and difficult, conversation. And I thought, wow, how beautiful if myself in my position, I can make sure that their voices are heard, and I can bring, decision makers, to them to understand what they are going through, how they see society, where, there are like too many blind spots, and what should be done because they have ideas. And it was absolutely great. And that's how, the idea of the foundation dedicated to disenfranchised youth, and supporting, their actions,
Let me just
came from.
read. You say there are three prongs. Like I went to the website and I love this because you have this three-pronged approach to using the arts from the Michaelle Jean Foundation. We use arts for dialogue, we use arts for community mobilization, and we use arts for social change. Could you unpack
Right.
those? I love that.
Yeah, because through the arts you go really deep. It gives you a space of sharing, of expression that is very profound. It
Mm,
takes a lot of courage. It opens, a safe space for people to come together, and sometimes in sorrow, but at the same
mhm.
time with this energy that can make things happen. And I
Yeah,
saw young people mastering that and doing it so well. Uh, and culture is such an important component, to address
mm,
social issues, because there is this depth that is so important. And also from that safe space, you can address, very dire situations and see what can be done. Uh, um, so
yeah,
it helps
yeah.
you revitalize communities, restore, social cohesion, because the things are addressed, uh, and uh, and uh, and always in a collective approach. Dialogue is essential. You cannot think of a healthy society or a healthy community when there is not dialogue. And once
Mm,
there's no dialogue, that's where the violence occurs.
yeah.
And also, I find that it's not only a safe space that it opens, but a space of dignity. So
Mm,
it's absolutely beautiful, because it goes to the essence of the human being, and I just love it. And at the same time, it's very pragmatic. It addresses issues, and it helps,
yeah.
really, building solutions in a very pragmatic manner. But it's the approach that is very special, because it comes from
Mm,
the heart. It comes also from
yeah.
imagination. It uh, also impulses a lot of innovative approaches and practices and good practices. And
Yeah.
and so the foundation is doing this work across Canada. Okay, let me give you an example.
Okay.
Take the International Decade for People of African Descent: Recognition, Justice, and Development, proclaimed, by the United Nations, asking all, state members to really take actions to combat, systemic racial discrimination, and
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
eradication of racism. It's wonderful, because with the youth, and also with the arts, with culture, we are able to have this National Black Canadian Summit, where you open spaces to discuss the devastating impact of racism on people's
Mm,
lives,
mm,
physical and mental health. Okay,
yeah.
but just the fact that you can actually have young people express themselves, write about it, express
Mm,
through, spoken words. It's wonderful, because it brings an energy that is very creative, and where
mm-hmm.
you can see the desire for life, for justice, for human rights, for values to triumph over that terrible, adversity that is racism.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is uplifting, and just where you are now in Nova Scotia, this the third edition
Mhm.
of the National Black Canadian Summit, with your
Uh,
participation, was supposed to happen in March,
I
but because
know,
of, I mean, yeah, COVID-19,
but
we postponed it to
you'll
next year.
remember. I'm there. I am there. Everything that you say, I am so there for, and I'm super excited that we get to plan ahead and plan something even better because we're just going to be in a whole new place and it's going to be a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I
Oh
remember
yes.
when we first started talking, when you first started planning it, there was like a dinner in Ottawa. We were seated next to each other. It was a banquet. And Jean Daniel was there. It was the last time, right? Oh, I've lost you. I'm gonna put my sunglasses on. It's a little bit bright for me right now. Oh, we've lost. We've lost. Michaelle. Well, praise the Lord that we pre-recorded this. I sang and we did a bunch of stuff, but the thing that I remember the most was that we went up to Tromsø. And Sylvie, um, a beautiful throat singer. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna kill my brain for not getting this right. I'm just gonna look. That's bad. Anyway, you're just gonna have to forgive me because there are a couple of. I'll work it out. I'll put it in the chat. But we sang together, this beautiful throat singer and I. Oh, this is gonna just my brain. She is the most beautiful person, and she's not gonna hold this against me. But Cloutier, Sylvia Cloutier. Oh, what a beautiful throat singer. If you don't know Sylvia Cloutier, please find her and love on her. And she was also on this diplomatic trip to the north and headed by um, the Right Honorable Michaelle Jean, Her Excellency at the time. And we sang on the northernmost point of Norway, Tromsø, over the like just this gorgeous vista of like the Nordic landscape of the Norwegian Lapland. And I was like, is this my life right now? And Sylvia Cloutier and I sang the national anthem. And Michaelle Jean made that happen because she invited us. And so we're just waiting for her to come back because she needed 5 minutes to text this person who called her while she was on the line with me in the middle of telling us about her wonderful foundation, the Michaelle Jean Foundation, which is a foundation that was having a summit on, race, and that is the empowerment of youth and using art to, and I'm going to tell you what the three tenets are. Michaelle Jean Foundation, we use arts for dialogue. We use our arts for collective impact model to empower undeserved youth to transform lives and revitalize communities in Canada. Hello, that's amazing. And that is exactly what the dialogue of the arts does. Fantastic. We use arts, Michaelle Jean Foundation, for community mobilization. Okay, literally there is every single ATV assembling. Like if we were using arts for ATV assembling, we would be like well on our way to community mobilization because there is hella ATVs up in this. Well, I'm going to tell you where I am. Psst, psst, come close. Psst. I am in a community just outside of Sackville, Nova Scotia. Now, I
You
grew
hear
up
me?
in. Oh, I can hear you. Okay, here we go. I was about to monologue
Yeah.
about where I was.
I'm
I'm
so
so glad
sorry.
she's back. No, no,
The
it's
thing is,
okay.
I had a video conference at 4, and I thought we were going to start at 2, and I
I
totally forgot.
know. We all totally forgot. Do you know? I pray that my Patreon watching this. It was that, and for me, it was her. And I'm telling you right now, I texted her, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. But thank you so much because I was monologuing, and you came back just in time. We were gonna lose people. We were really gonna lose people. People were gonna log
What
out.
were we saying, Misha? I
Oh,
don't remember what we were talking
no,
about.
listen, we were talking about very important things such as your Michael Jean Foundation, but we were also talking a little bit about our relationship, and I was talking to people about our trip to Norway and how Sylvia Cloutier and I sang the national anthem on the edge of the cliff
Oh,
there up in Tromsø.
yes.
It was one of my most prized memories. And you and Jean Daniel were there. And I just feel like your family is so gorgeous. And I was wanting to ask you a little bit about how the family's doing in this time. And it's funny because, I mean, and not funny, haha, obviously, but it's an bizarre happening that we would have so much time to spend together in a hashtag
Yes.
thank you girls way, but it is also
Yeah.
wrought with all that we've had to experience. It's this bittersweet joy, sorrow, and we're experiencing it together and with such depth. And I'm just wanting you to describe the last, 6 weeks for you and your family.
Uh,
if I'm not being
a lot of
evasive.
no, thank you for mentioning Norway because it was an amazing journey we had together, and I had seen you perform before, but I remember what you brought to Norway. And I'm saying this on purpose because you brought something to Norway, your presence. And I say that because as you were performing in on that evening in this beautiful we wouldn't call it theater, but art center in Norway, in Oslo,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it was.
Uh, you walked bare feet. You you sang with this powerful voice of yours, incredible, vibrant, voice, and then you would, as you like to do, address the audience. And King Haakon and the royal family sitting there with me, watching you doing that, they just couldn't believe it. And I remember the prince saying to me, this woman is unbelievable. I said, yes, her name is Misha Brugger Gassman, and she's an amazing artist. But he said, it's more than that. He said, look how she shines.
Oh,
And we
and
were
you're
at
like,
a time
you're like,
where,
she's not yet single, but just wait a minute.
but I was saying, and we were at a time in Norway where they were discovering what diversity is about. There were these young Norwegians come of different origins and not and coming from immigration, refugee families, and the Norwegians were not yet used to that on their land. And I remember how we had that beautiful, forum, youth forum and dialogue, with some of these new Norwegians. And again, Prince Haakon was there, the king and queen were there, and I remember how the Norwegian protocol were trying to pull them out, and they wouldn't because the conversation was so important. It was about, very important issues of living in diversity and seeing diversity as a richness. Okay, so I'm going to
And
close
in
this.
that moment, you know
Yes,
that you are absolutely fulfilling your role as activists in a role of
absolutely,
diplomacy. That's the
absolutely,
intersection there. That's the tension
absolutely,
right there. The
exactly.
absolute apex. And you repeated
Yes.
that over and over and over and over again in your tenureship.
But you were part of it, Misha, I must say. And you talked about, yes, of course, of course. This is you too. This is something we have really in common. And with Sylvia Cloutier, Inuit from Nunavik, doing the throat song, the throat singing, and at the same time, also being a spoken word artist. Wow. And we met the
And you
Sami
know,
people,
the Sami people, and
the Sami people.
I looked at their, you know how I like to get up close because it's all the vocal apparatus, and that's my thing, and I just love it. And I got real close, and Cynthia took the time to really explain it to me. And as a fellow singer that loves the apparatus, I mean, it's a geek out. I get it. It's like, guitar people getting together and talking about guitar things, or techie equipment, all this equipment we're having to learn to use, Michaelle. I mean, it's insane. But it's the same when I'm thinking in this space, and it's this meeting and melding of the minds, and it
Yes.
was a vocal diplomacy. Like I just was
Oh,
like,
yes, it was.
she and I
It
have been
was.
put on another program together at the National Arts Center, and
Yes.
so we checked in
Yes.
again, right? It was
That's great.
beautiful,
It
and I
was
got to see
beautiful.
you.
And the two of you have so much that you have a special, there's so much beauty in you, because you live your heart, your art and your heart. That's interesting. You live your art, and you use it so well to actually open space of possibilities, because you have this sense of, when I sing, when I'm there, my mere presence also means a lot about so many others. Where I come from, my people. It's absolutely fabulous, and Sylvia does that too. She
She
knows
does.
that. She's
She
using
does.
this art diplomacy, and you have that
Yeah.
too, Misha.
Well, it's very, because tomorrow night another person who does that is Jeremy Dutcher. Like, he's going to be on
uh-huh.
tomorrow night, and in the like,
Wow.
and we're both from Fredericton, North
Yes,
Side.
it's great. It's great. New Brunswick. Ah, and to answer your questions about the last 6 weeks, uh, very painful, I must say. COVID-19 is also an experience of grief. I've been grieving a lot. I lost 4 relatives, and my family feels decimated. 2 aunts, 1 cousin, 1 uncle, all from the same branch. So, my uncle is the brother of my aunts who also passed away, and my cousin. And to be confined in sorrow is very difficult. My aunt, who died in Montreal in a long-term care center, she died alone. There was no accommodation for even one of her children, to be there with her in these last moments, and to accompany her, and to assist her. She died alone. And it's something, when I think about it, it brings a lot of pain. I can't imagine this happening, because we're from a culture where we are together. And it's nonsense for us to imagine one of
Yeah.
us dying alone. and and
And that's
and and, and also no way of organizing a memorial. The only proposal is cremation, incineration. In some cultures, it's not even imaginable. And so, again, I find that, of course, we are in a situation of emergency. We need to take all precautions. But I find that this human dimension has been put aside. You know,
mm,
the importance of being able to grieve together. In other countries, it was possible to have funerals in small gatherings, 4, 5, maximum 10 people, staying at the right distance, doing things properly, but at least sharing the word, sharing, and
yeah,
and 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 praying together. And now we have all the
yeah,
tools. We are able to film, to
yeah,
share that with the others,
yeah,
and so that we can create, a space where we come together, and we pay tribute to our loved ones,
yes,
at their passing. Anyway, it's
yeah.
it's it's been very difficult.
And let me just say that I want to let you know that my family prays for your family. And now anybody who falls under the sound of our voices will also be praying for your family, that there would be comfort
Thank you,
in
Misha.
the isolation, that the wound of COVID would lead to a healing that we couldn't have expected, but that
Yeah.
we live in expectation of, because God is good and He does want us to feel loved and to experience His presence. And in the times when we are at our lowest is when we are able to experience God at His strongest. So I pray
because
that for you.
thank you so much. And I want to take this opportunity to thank, all people who actually sent me their words of sympathy, empathy.
Mm,
And I could see, because I only posted, a very simple message about the passing of my relatives. And came that wave of empathy, of love. And at the same time, I could see that there was that huge need to come
mm,
together and associate in each other's pain and sorrow, and
mm,
to
absolutely.
share and to care, because this is what the human nature is also about. As humans, we need to
Yeah.
associate with one another and come together. And it meant a lot to me, but at the same time, it made me understand how precious this is. Something we take for granted, don't we? See
Yes,
how precious it
absolutely.
is.
How
Being able to
precious it is.
connect.
Yeah.
We can't wait to be able to hug each other, don't we? You know?
I know. I know. All my children, all the things that my children are absorbing as a result of me not being able to touch anyone. Like, they have no
Oh,
idea how much I snuggle up to them while they're sleeping. They can't prove a thing. There's no cameras in there. And I love them so much. They're 5 and 7, Michaelle. But tell me about
oh,
how has she been through this? How is your
oh,
relationship been?
Marie then, as you know, lives in Toronto because she studies there, and she stayed in her little studio with her two
Oh, wow.
cats, confined for over 70 days.
Oh!
And with that sense of, Mom, I'm doing my part. It's important. It's to do that. Is to be responsible. She
Yeah,
wouldn't go
she felt
out.
it. She
In
wouldn't go
her
out.
building, there's a grocery stores on the first floor. She would only go
Yeah,
out to do her groceries, and
yeah,
twice a month, but she would not go out. And she was very careful. And at the
yeah.
same time, it was a way for her to take the full measure of her
Mhm.
capacity of resilience, of
Yeah.
being, organizing herself. Her birthday, her 21st birthday,
Oh,
we celebrated it on Zoom. I
I
mean,
came I came late because I get the time zone wrong.
I know
Like, I
you
came
came
on
late.
and the party was over. It was like party attendees, 1. But it was
It's the time
and
difference.
is the time I was like, "Shoot," and I don't know if it was black time or Atlantic time. I can't tell you. But I was like, not on time. I missed it. And Jean
Ah,
Daniel? Comment va
and
Jean Daniel?
Jean-Daniel va bien. We are very busy making this time an opportunity actually to revisit our programs at the Michael Jean Foundation, to revamp our the website, to really engage in restructuring, because it's important. It's this year is the 10th anniversary of the foundation, and of
Wow.
course it's good to take the full measure of our actions, the impact, and how we move forward, how we actually like how do you say that,
On peut le dire en français, on
re-engage
peut
some
en français.
programs. Yeah. Donc on essaie de rétablir certains programmes. For example, we had a bursary
Yeah.
program, and now we're creating two bursaries, and one on the power of the arts for social change, and the other one for young cultural entrepreneurs. So it's exciting. So Jean Daniel is dedicating a lot of his time on this, and he was working on a new documentary film on
Yeah.
globalization and the economies. and he had to stop, you know, all the editing process. And but of course, COVID-19, this crisis, is also changing a lot of
Mm.
situations. I think there are like new challenges ahead of
Yeah.
us, serious ones, uh, and I'm hoping that, you know, there will be a more human approach also of globalization in our ways of thinking, you know, our systems and of production,
Yes.
something that would, I would say, re-inject, you know, a human dimension to capitalism.
Sure.
We must give this some thoughts. You know, it's time for transformational leadership. It's time really to rethink things. Look at what's happening right now. You know, with you know, the assassination of George Floyd. Why are there
Yes.
so many young people marching? You know, and even if we are in a time of COVID-19, of pandemic, you know, these young people, all
Yeah.
colors, origins, you know, indigenous, blacks, Asian, white, you know, are really there saying enough is enough. And as
Amen.
they say, Black Lives Matter, what they're saying is all lives matter. And Black
Yeah.
lives must matter also to all. It's a shared
Yeah.
responsibility. And this is what they're
Yeah.
saying with so much strength. And around the world, I mean,
Around the world.
it gives me hope, because this was so tragic, so brutal, so
Mm.
violent. You know, this this hatred, because I think this gesture of the police, you know, uh, not listening to a man saying I can't breathe, and expressing his pain, and for this policeman to continue, and his colleagues not even
Mm. Mm.
stopping him,
No,
looking in other
exactly.
directions. And we got to see this man dying, you know, George Floyd.
Mm.
I think the the message that is being sent to all racists around the world is, you know what, enough with your ideology of hatred, and enough of that violence. Time must change. It must be a time for justice, for
Mm-hmm.
brotherhood, for something different, more investment, you know, in human capital, in the value of life and all lives. And you see, I'm hoping that we'll come out of this for a new time. Anyway, I think there's voices against, you know, this violence and this wrong mindset, this mindset of hate, are so important.
Mm.
I am sure that something will happen from there, and that the change will come, because it's not going to stop. Actually, it is not going to
It's
stop.
not. So
No.
I feel as though our plan has to be formulated from a place of true acknowledgement, of true repentance,
Yeah.
so that we know that what exists within us is capable of the same kind of hatred, so that in empathizing for the person who is able to commit these heinous acts, we are then able to root it out of ourselves at any cost, you know, personally, and then reach forward with that knowledge, right? Because we are capable of just as much good as we are evil, and the good expounds on itself. Good produces good. It multiplies. It can't help itself. It is a perfume that permeates everything: goodness, loveliness, excellence, peace, joy. Think on these things, And that is what it will spread. But it starts, from a place of deep, deep acknowledgement.
Yeah, and I
You
find
know,
that deep acknowledgement that, for example, it's not just an American problem.
exactly.
It's a reality that is prevailing right now everywhere. You see extremists coming closer to powers. You see them, taking the ground and gaining ground. Uh, and it's we must be more vigilant than ever.
Amen.
Um,
Rounding into our last 5 minutes here, Michaelle, I want you to
yes,
unpack our vigilance. We must be more vigilant than ever. And how am I doing that for you? Because I'm on board. Like I am about to I will write down everything you say because I can't even handle how grateful I am that you are in my life. I love you. I adore you.
I love you too, Michelle, for everything you are, for everything you do, for this grace in you, this generosity, this talent, immense talent.
The vigilance.
Ah.
Yeah, the vigilance.
Vigilance. The vigilance is about taking action. The vigilance is about speaking out. The vigilance is about fighting indifference. The vigilance is about
Mm,
believing that we can make a difference and then we can make things happen. It's and I think that we are blessed to have like a generation of young people who really, really say that out loud and with confidence. It's amazing. Young children speaking about it and saying this has to stop. This is really uh I mean, like the I can't breathe is also, we no more can breathe this air tainted,
yeah.
by
Yes.
injustice and hate. That simple sentence, I can't breathe, is about us
Mm,
also saying we can't breathe that air anymore. Something has to change. This cannot continue. And now it has to be everyone's business.
amen.
It's about
Amen.
time.
Amen. Yeah. And I tell you, I was not so involved as I have been as a result of having had to stop from COVID, having been able to actually take it in,
Yeah.
realize that I have come from such a beautiful place of privilege that if I expect for my normal to become the norm for everyone, as in this
Yes.
actualization that was unimpeded by discrimination because of the decisions of my father, because of the community that supported me. If I expect that to become the
Yes.
norm for every person and not just me, then I have to use
Mm.
what is mine, what is in under my purview, what has been, shepherded over by my parents and passed down to me and given to my sons, my beautiful swirly babies who don't even look around and think there's anything different about them and anybody else. If they don't take that for granted and fight that it be the truth for everybody else simultaneously, because you can have two truths at the same time. If we don't do that, acknowledging our wealth as citizens of this country and offering even better equality to the same citizenship globally, then we're not really entitled to what we have, and what we have is a total fallacy.
Oh, yes, it's so true. And people are going back, to essential values. I as I take walks sometimes, in my neighborhood, I can't tell you in how many windows you have Black Lives Matter. You have things written, by with chalks,
Mm,
by children, on sidewalks about justice,
mm,
about the importance of life and respecting all lives and not being indifferent and not staying in silence. Oh, it's like you're saying, well, okay, there's this level of awareness, that is showing
yes,
itself.
Well, we're counting down. We've got 30 seconds. Will you give us a 30-second blessing, and then we'll say over and out. And I'll see everybody here tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern for Jeremy Dutcher. But Michael Jean, the Right Honorable, could you give us 30 seconds of love?
Oh, immense love, immense love. I think this love will triumph over adversity. That's for sure. Thank you, Misha. Thank you so much for this time, this moment with you.